Hi, welcome to this Neuro Ninja mental health workout for part of a mental health awareness week in 2023. It's Andrew from Action Your Potential. Hope you're having a good week. So over the course of this week, we'll be dropping these videos looking at the things that we can do as neuro ninjas to look after our amazing brain. Just a reminder, a neuro ninja is someone that lives in their brain, understanding how it works and responding accordingly at the level of the day. Changing our behaviours around well-being at the level of the day, changing our behaviours around mind management at the level of the day, and changing our behaviours around planning and productivity each and every day. So, as neuro ninjas, we know that we can change our brains, and if we change our brains through daily habits, we change our minds because our brains generate our minds, and then we can change our world. And our mission is to provide a rope of hope to people listening to this around mental health and mental health awareness. The key idea is that physical and mental health are the same thing, and we, because we are human beings in a neurally plastic brain, can slowly but surely change our experience of our brains, our minds, and our world. Hold on, pain ends. Just as a traumatic experience can alter a life in an instant, so can a therapeutic encounter. And our hope is, by engaging in this content, you can begin a process of building powerful, positive mental health. That doesn't mean being positive all the time, that's tricky in a brain, but building the daily behaviours that support fantastic well-being. So, across these videos, we're going to be looking at how your brain builds your mind. We're going to be looking at how we're brain shapers every day, how to choose powerful habits, the 12 rocks of well-being, how to manage emotions and worries, to do gladden every day, to make a plan and repeat every day. We'll be exploring that neuro ninjas know there are forces that shape our brain, and we can use those forces deliberately to shape our brain. We know as neuro ninjas that we're on a change journey and that we can change our minds. So, Packet 1. Your brain builds your mind. Neuro ninjas know your brain builds your mind. Every morning when you wake up, that groggy feeling you have, that sleep inertia, that's the brain building that day's mind. Brains build minds. If there are changes in neural firing patterns in your brain, that changes the mind you get to live inside. Simply, an idea like hangry, for example, a body and brain needing energy turns into a brain that is quite grumpy, creating a mind that is quite grumpy. Hangry is a perfect example of that idea that the brain changes the mind. In fact, the mind runs a few milliseconds behind the brain. So that means that our brain builds our mind like a projector throwing up an image. So in this example, the brain is the projector, the mind is the image that we get to live inside. So for example, if we don't get enough sleep, then we are likely to be twice as anxious the next day and have 30% less memory. That's a perfect example of that key idea. Packet 2. We are all brain shapers. Neuro ninjas know that we are all brain shapers. Every single day, what we do, both deliberately and accidentally, shapes our brain. If we skip breakfast, that shapes our brain. That makes us hangry. It doesn't give us enough energy, for example. If we don't get enough sleep, that shapes our brain. If we don't exercise, that shapes our brain. The people around us shape our brain as well. We are, as Aristotle said, what we repeatedly do. But actually, neuro ninjas know that we are what we repeatedly think and do, because a thought is an action in the brain. It changes the brain. If we keep having repeat thoughts around and around in a particular structure, then we strengthen those particular patterns and ways of thinking. And our brain changes on the basis of what we use it for. If we repeatedly practice something, our brain and body make it easier for us to do that thing, regardless of whether that thing is good for us or not. So if we practice a foreign language, we get better at it. Great, we get to speak a foreign language. If we practice the guitar, we get better at it because we're building those pathways. If we practice overthinking and worrying, we get better at it. And we strengthen those circuits. So we need to understand that living in a brain means that whatever circuits we use the most get strengthened the most. Neuro ninjas know, Packet 3, that we need to deliberately choose powerful habits. So Neuro Ninjas know that people don't decide their futures. People decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. So living in a brain, we can't help but have habits. We are going to have habits. We're going to have positive habits and negative habits. But if we think carefully about some habits that we build, like an exercise habit, like going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, like making sure that we're planning each day, like making sure that we're capturing our worries and talking back to our worrying brain. More on that in a minute. We're building powerful habits that support our futures. So people don't decide their futures, but we do decide our habits day by day. And slowly but surely those habits accrue. Like barnacles on the bottom of a boat, we're going to build habits in our brain. But we, as humans, can choose deliberately habits that are life-affirming, not life-destroying. Neuro Ninjas know, packet 4, about the 12 rocks of well-being. The 12 rocks of well-being. These are the 12 rocks. 12 daily behaviours that your body and brain and mind are expecting us to do every single day. If you're feeling a little rough, if you're feeling a little stressed, if you're feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, you're probably missing some of these rocks. When we ask people questions about the 12 rocks of well-being, generally people are getting perhaps half of them in every single day. So it's really important that we get them in every day. They change the physical firing patterns in the brain. They put us in a balanced nervous system across our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. They work to help our brain grow new brain cells. There's the list of the 12 rocks of well-being: sleep and exercise and eating healthily and practicing mindfulness, focusing our attention and allowing our mind to wander, but keeping that mind wandering as positive as possible and noticing if it's got ruminatory or broody and we're overthinking things and wallowing in difficult experiences. Managing our emotions by noticing, accepting them, sharing them. Walking outside in nature, listening to music, connecting with friends and family, practicing gratitude and kindness. More on that in a minute when we talk about Gladden. Flow, which is doing something you love every day and making sure your brain has an opportunity to learn, play, create and read every day. That's the version for small children, for primary children. Brains leaping about, brains eating healthily, brains engaging in walking outside in nature, doing something that we love. Neuro Ninjas know, packet 5, that we have to manage our brain's worry system. Our brain's got a worry system and we have to manage our emotions and our worries. We cannot, in a human brain, be positive the entire time. The human brain is full of negative biases because those biases kept us alive. Our brain is a prediction engine. Half of what it does is a prediction about what it thinks is happening right now. The rest is testing sensory incoming information. Prediction engines are powerful. They keep us alive in a dangerous ancestral past. The human brain evolved to survive on the African savannah 50,000 years ago in a group of 150 other hominids. And we worked together as a team, and having a negatively predicting mind meant that actually, if we're standing next to a bush on the African savannah and we hear a sound and we assume it's a predator, we get to live. Whereas if we're standing next to a bush and we assume the sound is the wind and we just stand there, we get eaten. So we've got a negatively biased brain. We need to know that because in the 21st century, there's so much change and uncertainty out there that if we don't manage our brain's negative bias, we're going to strengthen the worry circuits and we're going to get depressed and anxious and get stuck. So brain predictions plus or minus sensory input equals reality, which means we're all living in a controlled hallucination. Our brain activates 3 times more powerfully when it processes a negative or unexpected event or information. And that's because, as I said, negative predictions in the ancestral past were important because it kept our ancestors alive. Mistaking a snake for a stick and not moving out the way was deadly, whereas mistaking a stick for a snake and thinking that stick is a snake, oh it's no it's not, that was fine. So it was much better to have a negatively biased brain. And this is the worry system in action. Just think about a situation where you might be worried about a future event. Perhaps you're doing an exam question in a lesson and you can ask your teacher for help, you can ask your friends for help, but your amygdala deep in your brain doesn't know that. Its goal, it thinks, is to pass this question, to do well in this question. And you look at the question and you can't do the question. That sets off your worry system within a few seconds and you start cognitively distorting that situation. You might be thinking, I can't do this question. If I can't do this question in the exam, I'm going to fail my exams. I won't get into college. I won't achieve the things I want to achieve. That's really stressful. That sets off our hypothalamus, which sends cortisol down to the adrenal glands above the kidneys, sending up adrenaline, getting the stress system going. And then we think, wait a second, I can ask my teacher. I can ask my friends. This is a past paper practice in a lesson. The fact this is happening in a lesson is a good thing, because it means if it happens in the exam, I'll be able to answer the question. So actually, it's fine. And all of that thinking happens in a different part of our brain, the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC, where our thinking and problem solving architecture is. And we calm down the worry system. But you may be sitting there thinking, I didn't even know I had a worry system, Andrew, let alone that I had to manage it. Well, you do, and you have to manage it, because otherwise your brain is full of cognitive distortions. Our brain constantly cognitively distorts the future with negative biases, because biases kept our ancestors alive. But nowadays, with uncertainty everywhere and change always around the corner, we're catastrophizing, we're jumping to conclusions, and we're living in a neurally plastic brain. So that means we're going to strengthen that circuitry. So what can we do? We can capture thoughts. We can notice our cognitively distorting mind. We can notice that thought that says, I can't do this question, I'm going to fail my exams, and ask ourselves, wait a second, is that thought even true? Actually, what kind of cognitive distortion is that? It's jumping to conclusions. It's catastrophizing. Just thinking about it, capturing it like this, activates circuits at the top and sides of your prefrontal cortex. Or you could turn a miasmic, undefined worry into a problem, and then once you've defined it as a problem, you can come up with solutions. Don't just sit there allowing your worry system to churn and churn and churn and churn. It is a problem spotting system. It's not a problem solving system. We need to move the information up into our cognitive circuitry to do that. Don't be the victim of your worry system, because if your worry system hums, it gets stronger, which means you get better at worrying, which is upsetting. We also need to manage our emotions. Now, what does that mean? We can't control our emotions, but we can notice them. We can manage our responses. And what we need to do is notice what emotions we're having, particularly negative emotions, accept those emotions and share with people that we trust. That process enables the brain to begin to process its emotional experiences. So you should practice emotional hygiene each day. What happened today? How did I feel? What emotions were involved? Neuro Ninjas know, packet 6, to do Gladden every day. So we talked about circuits at the tops and sides of your prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC. Gladden strengthens circuitry at the top of our prefrontal cortex, the circuits that solve problems for us. One thing you're grateful for every day, one thing you learned, one thing you achieved, one thing that delighted you, one positive emotion experience you had and why, and one new experience you had and what it was like. Just focusing on that for a little bit each day is about strengthening circuitry that's about problem solving, that's about perspective, that's about empathy and compassion. It's not about pushing away the negative, it's not about ignoring the negative, it's about just noticing that even though life is full of problems and brains focus a lot on the unsolved problems, there are still good things happening in our lives. And if we do that, we end up in a balanced brain. The communication that's going back and forth between the top of our prefrontal cortex and the bottom of our prefrontal cortex. There's this bias in psychology that perhaps thinks that emotions are not as important as cognition. Scientists certainly respond and talk about cognition as if it's the best thing. Thinking rationally is the best thing. Now, obviously, coming up with solutions with your cognitive architecture, thinking things through, is incredibly important. But we can't make good decisions unless we also use our emotional systems as well. So to make good decisions, we need to chart our way through the complex world using both emotion and cognitive circuits in a balanced way. We have a bias in the West, certainly, that cognition is better than emotion. But emotion's there first, and emotion precedes all learning, emotion precedes all problem solving. And once we've come up with the solution to a problem, we send it back through our emotional system to see if it feels right. So we need a balanced response, cognitively and emotionally. Neuro Ninjas know, packet 7, to make a plan and repeat each day. Our brain is a team of rivals. You might hear it sometimes saying to you, You should have that chocolate at the bottom of the fridge. But I shouldn't eat that chocolate. I need to be healthy. But you should have that chocolate at the bottom of the fridge. But I shouldn't eat that. Back and forth are circuits talking to each other. Your brain is a team of rivals. And our behaviour, our responses are partly down to which circuits are strongest. Our brain, think of it like the House of Parliament, is a loud, noisy parliament full of brain cells, not people. The House of Commons has got Lindsay Hoyle calling order to get those MPs quiet so they can discuss and debate laws. Our brain has got the prefrontal cortex to do that, and we need to look after the prefrontal cortex. If we give the prefrontal cortex a plan each day, it's much, much easier for it to guide the brain through the complexities and distractions that we face. We need to build a plan. Here you can see a plan that one of the students that we're working with has built in preparation for their A-levels. You can see that rocks are yellow. You can see that the different colours have got different subjects. You can see that self-directed study has got a particular colour. It's really important if you're a student preparing for exams, or if you're a student working hard at school, to balance each day with some well-being behaviours, some learning routines, some self-directed study routines, and some me time. If we don't plan each day, our brain chooses passive and easy. And we know that, don't we? If we don't have a plan, we just think, I'll just chill out today. By the end of the day, we're grumpy and cheesed off with ourselves because we haven't achieved very much, because there are circuits in our brain that witness our own output and comment upon it. What are those circuits doing? They evolved to make sure we connected with the tribe 50,000 years ago. If we didn't connect with the tribe and didn't contribute, then we would be in trouble with the tribe. So we internalized that dialogue and had circuits that monitored our output to make sure we connected. So if we don't have a plan each day, our brain, because it likes to save energy, will do passive and easy. So we either have a plan, or as we know, the day can get on top of us and run us. Neuro Ninjas know, packet 8, the forces that shape our brain are with us every day, and we can shape those. So these are the forces of change and transformation that Neuro Ninjas use to change their brain. Our goals change our brain because that changes our behaviour. Our daily actions and behaviours change our brain, choosing positive habits. Our friends and family and those people around us that positively influence change our brain. And the way we talk to ourselves, our beliefs about what we can and can't accomplish, changes our brain. These 4 psychosocial forces mean that we are all sculpting our prefrontal cortex every single day. Our brain is hugely affected by culture, the relationships, the conversations we have with ourselves, our goals, etc. And Neuro Ninjas take those forces and deliberately choose particular habits to shape their brains. How do we do this? We enable people to think about goals by thinking about a problem that they face, like an intractable wall, difficult to climb, like how am I going to pass my GCSEs? How am I going to overcome this anxiety? And we turn it into tiny steps, working with them. Very inspiring Neuro Ninjas that change themselves from the inside out. And when we're working with people, Neuro Ninjas know that what they do has double impact, because if you're doing it in your own brain, it is changing your brain. Your parents will help, your friends will help, your school will help. But if we do it to ourselves, it doubles the impact of those changes. Neuro Ninjas know that we're on a change journey throughout our lives. All of us are on the change journey to do with different aspects of our lives. We are self-improvers in some areas of our lives. We're keen to develop and improve our skateboarding skills, for example, or our writing skills, or our language skills, or our music skills. We might be stuck in other areas of our life. We might say, well, there's no point reading, I'm not very good at reading. Or we might say, I'm not very good at maths. We might be stuck. Or we might be shut down and say, what's the point? There's just no point. We are on a journey, all of us, and being a Neuro Ninja means you can take yourself from stuck by becoming a solution seeker and then become a self-improver. And looking across all the fantastic Neuro Ninjas we support, we have got around 5% people are self-improvers. Most of our clients are 70% of them are seeking some kind of solution to pass exams, to manage imposter syndrome or anxiety, to get better sleep, to lose weight. Stuck people, around 20% of people are stuck and they need some intervention, some additional help. And some people are pushing the help away, either actively or passively. And we can all do that. in relation to different areas of our life, depending on how we're feeling about ourselves and the particular issue that we're trying to tackle. Neuro Ninjas know that you can change your mind, and if you change your mind, you can change your brain. We would say, as Neuro Ninjas at Action Your Potential, you are entitled to your own opinions, but not your own facts. Your brain is amazing, and changing your mind is one of the best ways of finding out whether or not you still have a mind. Your mind needs to be open, and it changes every day. Whether you choose to change it, it will change, because you'll grow new connections whenever you learn something, and you learn something new every day. Even if you're not at school, you learn something new every day, because your brain is out in the world, and that's what it's designed to do. So a Neuro Ninja wakes up twice in their brain each day. They wake from sleep, and then they wake up to realize they're living in this biological matrix, this network that they can change by slowly and deliberately engaging in new habits and new behaviors. This stuff will absolutely change your life in Mental Health Awareness Week if you let it. And whether you think it will or whether you think it won't, it'll be down to whether you believe it or not, because we believe whatever truths our brain repeatedly tells ourselves, and we end up stuck perhaps with growth defeating beliefs about ourselves and the possibilities in the future. So you can change your mind, you can change your brain, you can change your world. Be in no doubt that you can do this.